Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome to today's video. It kind of feels really strange and quite crazy to be sitting here and filming this. As you guys may or may not know, back in 2017, which feels like such a long time ago now, I basically filmed a video opening up about my struggles with food, with body image, with mental health. I basically shared my eating disorder story, and like, yeah, 2017 is such a throwback. It's currently 2021. I don't want to retell my story, but I essentially wanted to share my story from my perspective now, because I just feel as if I'm in such a different mindset now. And as you guys have seen, like, I've been opening up about quite a lot of stuff recently on my channel. I've been having so many revelations, and I finally reached a point in my life when everything is finally just clicking into place. I can't click, but you know, it does bring me to tears sometimes thinking about this and talking about it, so I apologize if I do get a bit emotional, but as you can imagine, we've been through a lot, and it just makes me really happy to sit here and think that I have finally reached the other side. If you hear some banging, scraping, that is an awful noise. Dad is doing DIY, classic. As you guys know, there's always a lot of banging going on in the background of my videos. So that is basically today's video. I really hope you enjoy it. I will put a trigger warning at the start. Obviously, I am going to be talking about struggles with food and body image and stuff like this, so if you don't feel comfortable, then please don't watch this video. The first things I'll say is, in that video in 2017, I said things like, I can say that I have changed so much and I've come such a long way. And you know, I turned my life around. I have never felt better in my whole entire life, which at the time I thought were true. And as I have said in a recent video, you know, at that point in my life in 2017, I didn't know what it felt like to be fully recovered. And so at that point, I thought that I was okay. You know, I thought I had recovered. So it wasn't a lie at all. I genuinely felt so much better. In the summer after finishing school and before going to Cambridge, I did change my life around, really. I did make a lot of changes, and a lot of changes for the better. Like, I went from eating hardly anything to actually eating quite a lot of food, but my issues with food and with body image and my struggles with mental health were still lingering. I had a lot of baggage still to deal with, and I didn't quite realize that at the time. It's very hard to realize these things when you're in it. Me sitting here now, I'm looking back on a time when I just wasn't okay, and we're welling up. I don't want to use like busyness as an excuse, but everything really was cast to the back of my mind. Like, you know, I studied very intensely for 3 years at Cambridge. I then graduated, I had a gap year, I went traveling. Everyone then went through a tough time. When lockdown hit, I started my masters. Like, I'd always had a reason not to face my fears head on, and for a very long time, part of me didn't want to let go of that mindset. It's very common with mental health to talk about kind of like different voices in your head. Like, I've always had the Holly that is, you know, the fun, the happy, the positive Holly that is logical, that is rational, versus the other part of my brain, the other Holly that is irrational and that basically beats me up and puts me down. And I've only now reached a point when I've finally managed to like silence that other voice, just like say goodbye to her basically. I need to take a moment. Tissues conveniently positioned on the desk. This is far more emotional than I expected it to be. I don't normally wipe my tears like this. You are really watering the plants today. Take a deep breath, Holly, you can do this. I'm so emotional today, clearly. As I said before, I don't want to sit here and like repeat what I said in that video in 2017, but what I do want to talk about again is basically the causes of my struggles with food and with body image, and place a bit more emphasis on some of the things that I do really think contributed to me going through that phase in my life. I'm not blaming anyone or anything, because I don't want to put the blame on somebody else or something else. But I do think dance had a big part to play. Like, me staring at my body, me seeing what my body looked like, comparing myself to other people, comparing myself to my sister in particular. The whole thigh gap trend was really prominent for me and was a big like trigger. Comments from other people that I had received played another big role as well. Family members, from teachers, you know, and I take a lot of things to heart. It's very difficult for me to just like cast something aside and just shrug it off. If someone says something to me and it doesn't quite sit right with me, I hold on to it. That has been really detrimental to me and my mental health. And a lot of these things were not intended to be like hurtful comments, but my mind twists things and it interprets things in very strange ways, and that's why these things have stuck with me and they've like affected me in this way. Sorry, I need to blow my nose, like it's itchy. One of the comments that I received, I picked this one because I don't think it's too triggering, and I also wanted to mention it because it was discussed in the book that I read, The Memoir by Misty Copeland. I had this comment quite a few times growing up dancing. The first time I heard this, I was really quite young, but even at that point I can remember overthinking it. So I was basically told that I needed to like lengthen out the muscles in my legs. I was told that I was building a lot of strength in my legs and I needed to lengthen out those muscles. Now, in the dance world, if you say you need to lengthen out a certain muscle group, it's basically kind of implying that you need to lean out those muscles. I don't regret growing up dancing. Like, dancing has been a huge part of my life and I just definitely wouldn't be the person I am today without it. But there are a lot of things that are wrong with the dance industry, and it's therefore like not really surprising why a lot of dancers and ballerinas go through this stuff. So I now just basically wanted to talk through some of the signs that I wasn't fully recovered back when I thought I was in 2017. Obviously, as I said at the start, I still think I had a lot lingering. I still had to take the bin to the dump. Great analogy, Holly, great analogy. What I'm trying to say is my struggles were playing out in different ways and in different aspects of my life. The first thing I'll say is basically I definitely think I had an orthorexic mindset, and orthorexia is all to do with having an obsession with clean eating. I hate the term clean eating, but an obsession with like wanting to eat healthy food all the time and wanting to exercise all the time, you know, that is kind of orthorexia. I didn't label my food as kind of like good or bad, but subconsciously I knew that I wanted to be eating what I considered healthy. And very much related to that, I was over exercising. Like, I exercised so intensely, and not only did I exercise so much, I would overthink exercise. I would feel so guilty when I hadn't exercised one day or I hadn't been on a walk one day. I just felt so bad. Like, I felt as if my body was going to change instantly if I didn't exercise one day, when that's not true. And by the same token, if I ate something unhealthy or I ate a bit more, I'd freak out because I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm like gonna put on weight. When that's not how things work, Ollie. Like, your body is not going to change overnight. I battled these thoughts all the time, and it's painful to think about it. I was also a bit kind of touchy-feely about going out to eat food. Like, I would go out and eat food, but I would definitely overthink it. I know it is controversial. I'm going to hands down say, you know, it is quite controversial. You know, should someone who is recovering from an eating disorder and trying to improve their relationship with food go vegan, i.e. cut out a lot of food groups? Like, I'm not a nutritionist, dietitian, doctor. I'm just Holly, okay? So I'm not here to give an answer to that question. I just did what I did. I can't change that. I can say for sure that going vegan definitely helped me. I went from eating a very restricted diet to eating an abundance of plant foods, so many new foods that I hadn't eaten in such a long time. I remember the first day I ate a banana for the first time in a long time. I had not eaten bananas in such a long time because I was told that they had too much sugar in them. Contrast to now, when I eat multiple bananas a day. Veganism changed my whole world. It really did. But one of the things I will criticize about veganism for me is that I shied away from eating fat. Anything that I considered an overt fat, I didn't want to eat. And that was kind of because around the time when my sister and I went vegan, there was kind of like the high carb, low fat movement, blah blah blah. And yeah, I didn't want to eat fat. I was really quite scared of eating fat. I was so fine with eating carbs, like carbs all the way. But yeah, it was fat that I still struggled with. And so, you know, as I've talked about in other videos, I didn't have a period. I was eating quite a bit of food, but I clearly just wasn't still eating enough, and I wasn't eating enough of the right foods, i.e. enough fats and protein. My diet was really quite unbalanced still. Related to this idea of me not wanting to get my period back, I was scared of like my body changing, i.e. I was scared of gaining weight. Weight gain is definitely one of the hardest things to process mentally when you're trying to recover. And yeah, I had a hard time with this, a really hard time with this. You know, I think I want to do a whole video about like weight gain and accepting weight gain and stuff like this. Like, I'd make up in my head that my body had changed overnight, and so that made me retaliate, and I'd be like, no, I have to eat less or exercise more because I've gained weight. Like, I was just so scared of gaining weight. I just wanted my body to stay the same. And another thing I don't think is spoken enough about, especially on the internet, is like body checking. This is something that, again, I denied. I knew it was a thing, but I always just, you know, said no, I don't do that. You know, I'm not taking this picture with the intent of checking what I look like. In me taking pictures or in me filming a video, you know, like, I had an excuse to look at myself and to see what I look like from different angles and to check that I still look the same. Whenever I take pictures now, it's not with the intent of me checking my body at all. Another one is to do with like counting calories. Now, I didn't do this very much at all, but I would occasionally check how much I was eating to make sure I was in a safe bracket for me, when in reality I should have been eating more and more of certain foods. Again, this is quite a small thing, but my Apple Watch, I did take that off eventually because I realized it was more toxic than it was worth for me. Obviously, an Apple Watch, it tells you to move, it tells you to stand up, it tells me how many calories you've burned and blah blah blah. And at one point in my life, when I was going to the gym a lot, I think this was, I was obsessing over what my Apple Watch was telling me. I had to reach a certain calorie goal, and I had to do so many steps, and I had to stand for a certain duration of time. Like, it was just getting ridiculous. And that is when, you know, I took off my Apple Watch. I only wear my Apple Watch when I'm like exercising or running now, just for the purpose of me seeing how far I've run, you know. Like, I don't use it to burn a certain calories anymore at all. But there was a time when I was using my Apple Watch in the wrong way. Another clear sign is, you know, I went through a binge eating period. I clearly wasn't eating enough during the day. I just wasn't fueling my body properly, and that led me to binge eat. You know, I've shared this story on my channel, and you know, as I said, like, my struggles with food manifested in different ways. So those are a lot of like the signs that, you know, I was still not recovered. But one period of my life that very clearly demonstrates a lot of the things I've spoken about, and this was a time of my life when I was really struggling, was in 2019. And this was when Emily and I went to France together. We went surfing together at a surf camp, the vegan surf camp, and then as a family we went on holiday to Greece. That year I just graduated from Cambridge, and my kind of body around that time kind of like relaxed a bit. It was like, phew, we've finished, we've graduated, the stress levels decreased, and that marks the time when my body started to change. But obviously I kind of like tried to stop that. And when Emily and I were in France, overall that was a really great time. We had like an amazing time together. But on one day I remember I felt so low, I just burst into tears, and I was crying ultimately because I was worried about what I looked like and what I was eating and blah blah blah. I had like a mental breakdown. And then pretty much straight away after that, we went on like this relaxing holiday. We were swimming in the sea, swimming in the pool, doing all of these amazing things. I tried scuba diving for the first time. It was an amazing holiday all round. I vlogged it, but I didn't post that video because I was not myself for the whole entire week. When we first arrived in Greece, that first day was the hardest because we arrived and we all decided we'd go to the beach and we'd put bikinis on. That was one of the hardest things for me to battle. I could not bear to see myself in a bikini. I did not want other people to see me in a bikini. I didn't want my family to see me in a bikini. I didn't want everyone else on this beach holiday to see me. Like, I can hands down say that my struggles with food and with body image and with mental health ruined that family holiday. I feel so bad for it. And obviously after that I then went traveling around Australia. That is when things started to change for the better. I'm not saying I fully recovered when I was traveling, but things did start to change in my head when I went traveling. However, I kind of like backtracked a bit when I came home, and I was really worried for a long time about my family seeing what I looked like. It sounds ridiculous to say, but I just felt so uncomfortable wearing like tight clothes or a crop top or shorts around my family, and I just don't know why I thought everyone was paying attention to me when clearly no one cares, to be honest with you. But I thought that everyone cared, and I thought that everyone would judge what I'd look like. And you know, this was made a lot worse because I was binge eating at the time and I was bloated and I felt so uncomfortable. So as I said, my kind of like progress has been up and down, and you know, things have only really started to change. Getting onto the recovery part of this video, the most positive part of this video. I really started to recover kind of from like the end of 2020 onwards. What I do want to say is that something I would go back and do differently is that I would get help sooner. When I was going through the toughest period, I did go and see a mental health counselor. I actually went to see multiple, but at the time I was just so close-minded and I didn't want any help and I didn't want to change that I didn't open up at all and I didn't allow it to help me. So that would be my advice to myself, my past self, and to any of you guys out there. Just like go and speak to someone, get professional help. If you can't get professional help, speak to family members, speak to friends. You just don't want to bottle it up inside. Like if you can help yourself by getting others to help you, it will do the world of good. Another thing I'll say is that it's not gonna be a quick fix at all. As I said, it's taken me a long time. It's probably taken me longer than it could have, but it's not a quick fix. And you know, just simply telling someone that they need to eat more or they need to just gain weight or they need to just stop exercising like there and then, it's just not gonna help. You know, yes, others can help you, but ultimately it has to come from yourself. Like it has to come from within. You have to be fully open to changing and recovering. And as I said before, I kind of myself finally reached a point, I don't really know how and why exactly, but you know, I reached a point one day when I was like, I want to be healthy. Like I want to be healthy all round. That was just kind of like a really clear indication that things were permanently changing for me. I'm not a psychologist or anything like that at all, obviously, but like part of me is like, I will never fully get rid of this voice in my head. It will always be part of me because you ultimately can't unlearn things, you can't unknow things. Once you've had certain thoughts, can you ever really get rid of them? But what you can do is you can build the mental strength to put that voice to rest. You know, anyone, regardless of whether they've been through something or not, will have bad days, will have good days, will go through times when they don't feel as confident. That is just normal for everyone, especially in the era that we live in now, you know, with social media and stuff like this. But I've reached a point when that voice is so quiet now that she's virtually non-existent, you know? And so recovery to me means like finding the mental strength to overcome those negative thoughts and to basically silence that voice inside your head that is saying all those horrible things. You know, that to me is what recovery is. I'm finally, as I said, at such a happy place in my life. And so yeah, that is basically my story. But yeah, as usual, I really hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Comment down below my favorite emoji, the green heart emoji. Thank you for continuing to support me and to be here with me on my journey. And yeah, subscribe if you want to stick around. I will speak to you as always very soon in another video.